Hello, my name is Maria, and welcome to my presentation about unlocking Kubernetes troubleshooting best practices with Botkube. Just a little bit about me. I'm a developer advocate at KubeShop working on the Botkube project. I have a background in industrial systems engineering, and I've been working in developer relations and software engineering for the past few years. I also have a dog named Malcolm. To say that the Kubernetes space is complex is an understatement. There's a steep learning curve, and on the left you can see that there are lots of tools to learn. So here is the map of the CNCF landscape, and there are probably more tools that have been added since this picture has been created. But with Kubernetes, you have to know about container orchestration, you have to know about configuration management, deployments, and networking, all just to get your Kubernetes up and running. Additionally, troubleshooting is challenging, especially in this hybrid world that we're living in. Being able to communicate effectively with your teammates is more difficult than ever, especially when you have teams across different time zones with different levels of Kubernetes expertise, and just being able to share context is very difficult. So what is Kubernetes troubleshooting? So in short, Kubernetes troubleshooting is a process of identifying and resolving issues in a Kubernetes cluster. So this means solving problems related to deployment, networking challenges, resource allocation, and more in a timely manner. So here's an example of a Kubernetes troubleshooting scenario. This is the ohm killed error, and this occurs when there's excess memory and Kubernetes will automatically terminate their pods. So first, you need to identify the container or pod that was terminated. Secondly, you need to check memory usage of the container or pod. Then you have to look for any errors in the container or pod logs. Fourth, you need to update the container and pod image. And fifth, increase the memory limit for the container or the pod. So this is a 5-step process, and you might say, Maria, this is 5 steps. It's not that complicated. However, when you're finding the root cause of the issue, you have to go through multiple sub-steps in this 5-step process. So these 5 steps can take minutes or even hours or even days to solve if you don't have a efficient troubleshooting workflow. And it gets even more challenging when you add in multiple clusters. So in a large-scale production environment, it's very difficult to identify the root cause of the issue. So if one cluster is having issues, how can you tell what is going on with each cluster? So how can you identify and diagnose your problems when your problems are distributed across multiple systems? Additionally, with multiple clusters, you're going to have multiple tools that you use for your observability, your monitoring, and your resolution. And then being able to collaborate and assign responsibility just becomes more difficult the more complexity that you add in. So here are my 5 Kubernetes troubleshooting best practices. Number 1, you want to centralize your monitoring and observability. This means you want to put all of your information into one place where everybody can have a shared context and a source of truth to be able to act on the error. Second, you want to have proper incident response and collaboration. So what you need to do is have some sort of avenue to be able to have your incident response and collaboration in one place, so they're not in 2 separate channels, and you can have everything in one streamlined place. Third, you want to establish a feedback loop. So this means keeping track of all of your insights from previous incidents and errors, so you can have more insights on what's going on in your system. Fourth, you want to be able to streamline your command execution. So as you scale to avoid redundancy, you want to be able to make a single command across multiple clusters. And fifth, we want to be able to automate your observability and delivery process. So automation is key when it comes to efficiency. So what is Botkube, and how does it help teams follow troubleshooting best practices? Botkube is an open source collaborative Kubernetes troubleshooting tool. This means you're able to monitor and troubleshoot your events in the same platform. So this means instead of having to screen share or hop on a meeting to solve an error, you're able to solve everything in your chosen platform. And today we'll be talking about how Botkube works well with Microsoft Teams and Azure. And then with Botkube, you're able to improve your developer experience, because nowadays, if you're a developer working with Kubernetes, you're almost forced to be a Kubernetes expert just to get to know the status of your applications. But with Botkube, you're able to get self-service access to your resources without, having to deal with the knowledge gap. And finally, because Botkube can easily connect in with any of your communication platform tools, you're able to use Botkube from a mobile device, meaning that you can use Botkube on the go. So just a quick overview. Botkube works with Slack, Microsoft Teams, Discord, and Mattermost. And currently, you can monitor your Kubernetes events via Kubernetes Events and Prometheus. And we also have more plugin system where we have more sources where you can link Botkube to. Additionally, you can control your Kubernetes, so act on those events with kubectl and Helm. And secondly, you can automate your event responses with Botkube's actions, and you can extend Botkube to any source or executor via the plugin system I mentioned before. And via the Botkube web-hosted app, you're able to audit your events and commands from all of your clusters. And in that web-hosted app, it's easier to manage your Botkube installation and configuration for all of your clusters. So back to our best practices. So empowering observability. With Botkube, and you see an example right here, you're able to receive your real-time updates in your communication platform. And you can get your changes and about your new resources or updates that happen to your system. And with Botkube, it's very easy to create channels for and separate the information that you get. So for example, the front-end developer channel does not need to have all of the Kubernetes alerts that you get, versus a platform engineering channel that should have all the access they need to everything that's going on in the cluster. Secondly, incident response and collaboration. So as you can see this GIF, the team is reacting to an error that occurs, and they're able to run a command right in the communication platform that they're using. So you're able to not only receive alerts, but you're also getting context about what's happening. You get the logs of what you're doing. You're able to filter those logs. And you're also able just to have a history of events that is right in your communication platform of choice. And third, establishing a feedback loop. So this is an example of audit log that you'll be able to access with the Botkube web-hosted app. So you're able to get, insights about your team's performance and potential issues. So if you notice that certain, developers on your team are the ones who ran the last command before something goes down, you're able to get performance insights on what's going on with your team. And as an industrial engineer, I believe in continuous improvement, and you can't have a continuous improvement without having data to back it up. So this audit log is your source of truth to be able to make changes to improve your system. And next, we have streamlining command execution. So here you see the Botkube. You're able to, change your namespace. You're able to change the cluster and be able to run commands across multiple clusters. So this allows, you to scale fairly easily and fairly quickly. And you're also able to give, non-Kubernetes experts access to the ability to run Kubernetes commands or Helm commands or any executor that you choose fairly easily and very quickly within the communication platform. And finally, you want to be able to streamline your automation and developer empowerment. So here's an example of an automation with Botkube. So this automation runs automatically every time there's an error. So this automation is to run the kube control logs function. So instead of having to repeatedly write kubectl logs over and over again when you receive an error, Botkube does that for you, and you're able to reduce the amount of time in your troubleshooting workflow. So this scales really well, so you're able to work with different tools across the cloud native landscape. So you can use this with Prometheus, you can use this with Argo CD, Flux CD, and many more. And you can reduce your time while in your troubleshooting workflow. So here is a new improved Kubernetes troubleshooting workflow with Botkube. So with the automations in place and the alerting in place, you're able to reduce your 5-step process into a 2-step process. So as you know, with scale, this will scale really well. So imagine you being able to reduce your troubleshooting time by 30-40%, and then scaling that across all of your clusters that you work with. So this will, allow your teams to work more efficiently and quicker and be able to work on the more important stuff besides debugging errors. So in conclusion, a strategic approach to Kubernetes troubleshooting is vital for multi-cluster environments. And as we know, complexity and scale is becoming more and more important as we go on. So it's very important to, have a very calculated and targeted approach to Kubernetes troubleshooting and not just sort of have an ad hoc way of dealing with errors. And by following the best practices aligned that I've talked about before, you will be able to, take your Kubernetes troubleshooting to the next level. And finally, integrating solutions like Botkube will be able to enhance your efficiency and reliability across all your Kubernetes clusters. So just quickly how to get started with Botkube. It's very easy. You can either install Botkube via the web-hosted app, or you can go to our GitHub and install the manual way in your cluster with Helm. And it's very easy to configure it to whatever you're working with via our web-hosted app. And I will show you how to get configured with Botkube in Teams and K8s in a moment. So here is the demo. Here is the Botkube dashboard in the web-hosted app. As you can see, we have a K8s cluster that we're going to have set up. And you can see we have a stage and production cluster environment. And we are currently connected to Kubernetes, kubectl, and Teams. So let's just get started with putting Botkube into Microsoft Teams. So here we're in the Microsoft Teams marketplace, and we're just going to add Botkube Cloud to our team and set up that bot really quickly. And then next, we're going to just see Botkube in action. So we're going to connect Botkube Cloud, and then you're just going to be able to manage your instances right in the Botkube web-hosted app. So we have an K8s cluster, a stage cluster, and a production cluster like we saw before. And you're just going to click that, save, and then it's going to show up in your Teams channel just like that. So we have successfully connected our Botkube to the channel. So we're just going to test out a few commands and make sure it works. In this demo, I'm going to show you how you're able to configure multiple deployments in Botkube. So the current deployment that we're working in right now is going to be our stage deployment. And then we're going to be able to set up a prod deployment. So you're going to follow the same steps that you used before to set up your stage. And we're going to use our kubectl to make sure we can, check our work and make sure that's done well. But as you can see, it's very easy to get started with multiple deployments and multiple clusters in Botkube. It's just a few simple commands, and you're able to check your work via kubectl, amongst many other things. But yeah, that is our demo, and I'm excited to have you in the Botkube community. And thank you so much for joining my presentation. And right here, you can scan the QR code to get started with Botkube. And thank you so much for having me. Bye.